50-inch plasma TV. I'll go and kick in a window for it if I can't get it any other way.
Welcome back to the North East Truth Show. We've got a guest caller, you might say. Freeman Jack's come to join us from Riot Central by the sounds of it.
Well, not tonight, but last night it certainly bloody was.
Jack, you're situated somewhere between Peckham and Lewisham, right? So in the middle of all the riots last night, yeah? Pretty much epicentre.
I was out last night driving through Peckham as it goes, went over to see our mate Moonview. He's just on the other side of Peckham over at Camberwell, and I had to literally drive a big sort of circuit around Peckham because every road was closed off by ranks of riot police. But then on the way back, the town had just been opened back up. They had like 1 or 2 policemen posted on each smashed-in doorway, and the whole town was opened up, but it was just a wash of broken glass. Really strange sensation driving out last night. Really, on the way out it was odd, and on the way back it was even odder.
Well, this is what we were saying. We were saying that perhaps the response was a bit strange and lacklustre, perhaps. What would be your perception, bearing in mind like that? You were there.
I was saying while we were off air that I believe that I have assembled a reasonable narrative of the entire sequence of events. So perhaps it would be easier if I just broke in with that.
Yeah.
First of all, we've got the death, a rather strange death of Smiley Culture in Tottenham. He was a bit of a small-time reggae star, but I think a bit of a local celebrity. And he died during a drug raid.
This was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was only 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Was it? I thought it was.
Yeah, it really wasn't. I may be mistaken. It certainly wasn't a long time ago. It's in
no, relatively, yeah, but it wasn't like it wasn't an immediate.
No, it wasn't like last week. Yeah,
yeah.
The rumours had been circulating that Smiley Culture had assembled some information about the activities of the local drug squad, and they're basically being implicated in the supply of drugs, rather than the removal of them from the streets of Tottenham, more specifically crack cocaine.
And he was campaigning against cocaine.
Yes, he was campaigning against this. Now, funnily enough, I think... Oh, yeah, I've got some money in there. Sorry, love, you can speak. Don't want to. Come on here.
The Smiley Culture was... so the concept is that he was actually campaigning against drugs and was perhaps compiling evidence that the police that were supposed to be doing the same job were actually supplying the drugs into the area.
Yeah, that's certainly the word in the local area about that. Right now, in addition to this, I have had word that this Mark Duggan was in fact either a direct familial relative of Smiley Culture, or was, a distant cousin, nephew, nephew once removed or whatever.
Yeah. Mark Duggan being the guy that was shot.
And that I have second-hand news of somebody who was in receipt of the BlackBerry message that he sent out to his contact group 15 minutes before he died, where he is basically saying that there, in his own language, that the streets are full of armed police, but that he's still going to wherever he's going. Now, this is not the actions of a gang member with a gun in the minicab with him.
No.
Now, you would turn around, you would head back out of the area, or you would go and put the gun in a safe house and then continue about your business. You would not drive into the jaws of the lion.
Certainly not if you were this character as the media have portrayed him as some sort of reasonably high-level local gangster. He would be cleaned up enough that his face would be known, that he was likely to get turned over if there was a big police activity in the area. And he would have the intelligence, if he was carrying anything, to get shot of it. He wouldn't drive straight into the area if he had anything to hide, because he'd know he'd be a prime target for a pull.
Well, the best take that I've got on that so far is that he's possibly, again, a family member of one of these local drug gangs.
Right.
Yeah, so he's not directly implicated in the drug gang itself, but is a peripheral member of one of the local drug gangs. It's also funny to notice that all of the publicity shots of him have not been of him with his 4 kids.
No.
Because he was a father of 4 children, but of him posing, making a gun shape with his hand,
or possibly a come over here thing. You know, that's the,
that's a local hand gesture.
Well,
yeah, all the local there's probably not a single fucking kid within
this is
2 miles
point
of it who haven't got a picture of themselves on Facebook pulling exactly the same gesture.
Right.
Oh, great! We used to do it. You know, that's the point. It's about pretending to be hard. It's important to point out.
The particular stance that he's taking, the way he's holding his head, the way he's holding his hand, it's a gun. It's a gang gesture.
Right.
Yeah, but it's the sort of thing that you would pull if a policeman was passing. You might pull that pose. Yeah, just simply to let the policeman know that he's entering into gang territory and he's got something to worry about. Yeah, it's a bit like putting 2 fingers up to the old bill.
Jack, while we're on, can you clear something up for me? Is within the local area, is feds reference to just the general police?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, feds is just a word for any member of the police force.
Right, different terms in different areas. So I just want to make sure, because obviously we do have UK.
Okay, so we got the shooting of this mark on Thursday night. We then have word going around the local area about this text that was received by many family members and other members of the local community. 15, as I say, sent about 15 minutes before he died, and the family get to hear about this and understand the implications of this. You know what I mean? That basically this message says that this boy was unarmed. So we've got unarmed 20-something-year-old father of 4 murdered by 4 policemen in cold blood in the streets of Tottenham, and they have a peaceful announced march. This wasn't any kind of riot. This wasn't anything that was ever intended to be anything other than a demonstration of solidarity from the community. And do you know what they went to the police station to do?
Yeah.
Has any of you heard what that group actually went to the police station to do?
No.
On the mainstream media?
Not a word. Just that it was a demonstration.
They went to report the murder of Mark Duggan.
Right.
They were not allowed to enter the police station to report the murder of their son and brother. They were held outside the police station as a group for 3 hours. Nobody spoke to them. They were not allowed to enter the building. They were not allowed to step onto the property of the building. So they were held at arm's reach for 3 hours. After 3 hours, the main family members, obviously very upset, have had enough and decide to leave to go home. At this point, as the group starts to move away from the police station, a 16-year-old girl goes up to the row of police that are there to drive them sort of down the road and stands and starts finger waving and generally making a nuisance of herself. She is then truncheoned to the ground by 6 riot police in front of all of the family members, in front of this entire group that were there grieving and trying to report the murder of their son and brother. At this point, obviously, the initial riot breaks out. Now, like I say, this is I'm not entirely sure as to the precise timeline of this, but I know that at this point there were 2 helicopter units in the air full time. They would have been monitoring all of the activity on the back streets and on the main street and coordinating the police centering onto whatever was going on. And like I said to you off air, if you put a brick through a fucking bookie's window around here, you can guarantee the response of at least 6 vans full of well-equipped police, and they will be there within about 30 seconds to a minute. Yeah.
So, as a general rule in the area, you've already got a pretty robust response to that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, there was no question about it. There was nothing else on that night that would have been calling away police. It was a Saturday night. There would have been dozens of well-equipped units already driving around the local area, and at worst ways you're talking about 10-15 minutes to have at least a dozen units within the area, especially there was a football match on as well. Tottenham were playing that day, so there would have been all of the usual regular police support for the Tottenham crew, which would have been able to be pulled off at a moment's notice.
So the conspicuous response at the time was a total absence of police response?
Not only a total absence, but there was the YouTube that was pulled down, that YouTube took off literally within minutes of it being put up, of a local resident who was caught up in the riot at the time that it kicked off, talking to a BBC, I don't know whether it's a radio reporter or I think it actually sounds like a TV reporter. And this eyewitness on the ground is saying that there is a riot going on in Tottenham and the police are hiding up the back streets. And that's been removed from YouTube. It was removed within minutes of it being put up.
Well, this
Evidence
is exactly
of...
what we said. You know, just stand back, maximum destruction for maximum publicity shots. For maximum
right, and then what we've seen is basically the harnessing of the poverty of the local youth, the desperation of the local youth, and also the indoctrination of the local youth that all they want out of life is a pair of Nike trainers and a PlayStation 3 and a colour TV. Yeah?
Uh-huh.
So what you then do is you then give carte blanche. I was hearing reports there were callers coming in on the local radio stations reporting busloads of hoodies, as the local vernacular is, masked up, all talking to each other and talking on their phones about which shop they were going to turn over in Brixton. And when these groups of 20 or 30 youths were getting off the bus, they were being coordinated and directed by somebody already there.
Mm. There
were other reports in Brixton of looters going through the police lines, collecting armfuls, if not trolleyfuls of goods, being allowed back through the police lines, and doing this more than once. Looters were being seen making repeated journeys through the police lines to go and loot. And in every single response on the Saturday night, when there was basically pretty much a media blackout in London, there was no reports on the news whatsoever, except for on a local radio station that was reporting it pretty precisely, mostly because they're a phone-in station, and it would have been pretty hard for them not to cover it. Yeah, but there was pretty much a media blackout going on in London, if not worldwide, because I think that riots in London, you know what I mean, British capital city, is probably global news, if not local news.
Well,
and we had
it certainly made the international news by Sunday.
Oh, yeah, it's been on. Yeah.
Well, I was watching all of the news feeds on Sunday, and trust me, they were not reporting what was going on.
No.
There may be ticker tape reports of disturbances in Brixton. By this time, Brixton was fucking ablaze.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I mean, Sunday night, yes, we've all seen the rolling news all day today, but Sunday night I was on air all night, basically playing out as much of the information as I possibly could, because I knew the mainstream media was not covering it. I was actually relaying our local London station over TNS through the middle of the night, because I knew that this was not going out over the mainstream media. But the real specific of that was that every single town that was hit with exactly the same modus operandi. The youths bust in. They didn't, you know what I mean? This isn't some private secret army. This is a whole bunch of hooded youths, you know what I mean? You see 6 of them walking down the street, you get alarmed, you notice. Right. Yeah, if you've got 20 or 30 of them descending on a place, the police know.
Yeah.
Right? Police were basically allowing all of these youths into the area. They were waiting until all of the shops were looted and fires were being set. Then they would move in. Only then would you see any sort of action. So it was quite patently clear that they were under orders to allow the looting, to let the riot continue until such point that it became that they had to be seen to be acting in order that questions wouldn't be asked.
Well, see what you see.
And all of this business about manpower is an absolute nonsense. They're talking about 17,000 police on the streets of Britain tonight. There's 35,000 police in Britain, in London.
Yeah.
35,000 active service police in this capital.
That's more than enough, isn't it?
It is.
It's interesting that even up here there's a massive police presence on the streets today. Like, in Newcastle, Teesside, generally, there's, you know, the streets are awash with ARVs and vans. Like,
I've been seeing some very odd vehicles on the road today. And I thought I was well versed with the equipment that the police had at their disposal, but there's been some very odd armoured vehicles driving the streets of London. Oh, look, there's some of them on the telly now.